Once upon a time, long before now, a wise narrator told us that far-off aliens, so smart and powerful, became jealous of how humans ruled the earth. They decided to take action against us, and soon our lives were changed forever. In the busy city of Brooklyn, New York, there was a divorced longshoreman named Ray Ferrier. Ray worked as a crane operator at a dock, and he had 2 children, his 10-year-old daughter, Rachel, and his teenage son, Robbie. Ray and his children did not always spend time together because they were estranged, and Ray's life was not easy. One day, Ray's pregnant ex-wife, Mary Ann, dropped off Rachel and Robbie at his house in Bayonne, New Jersey, on her way to visit her parents in Boston, Massachusetts. Later that day, something very strange happened. A terrible thunderstorm rolled in. Lightning flashed, and during the storm, bolts of lightning struck the middle of a busy intersection. These lightning strikes caused an electromagnetic pulse, EMP, that suddenly stopped almost all electronic devices from working. Radios, televisions, phones, and even computers went silent as if by magic. Curious and worried, Ray went out to see what had happened. On his way, he talked with his friend Manny, a kind mechanic. Manny was busy fixing a customer's minivan and had just replaced a small part called a solenoid. Ray joined a crowd of people gathered near the intersection, trying to understand the strange events. Then, as the ground trembled with a sudden earthquake, something unbelievable occurred. A huge, 3-legged war machine, called a tripod, burst out of the ground. With bright energy beams, it attacked the crowd and turned many people to ash. Seeing the chaos and danger, Ray quickly gathered his children. He climbed into the minivan that Manny had just fixed, hoping to escape the destruction. He tried to convince Manny to join them, but before Manny could decide, one of the tripods attacked. In the chaos, Manny was killed by the machine. With no choice left, Ray sped away with his children. Ray drove his family to a quiet, empty suburban home in New Jersey that had belonged to Mary Ann. They thought they would be safe there. But soon, disaster struck again. A huge Boeing 747 airplane crashed into the neighborhood, adding to the terror and confusion. While the chaos reigned on the streets, Ray met a wandering TV news team that was scavenging the wreckage for food. One of the reporters explained in a trembling voice that similar tripod machines were attacking major cities around the world. These tripods had powerful force shields that made them almost impossible to destroy using our regular weapons. The reporter said that the aliens, who had long been hidden underground, had used lightning storms to travel here and enter their enormous machines. Determined to protect his children, Ray decided to take them to Boston, where their mother awaited them. But as they drove, a desperate mob of frightened people swarmed their vehicle, forcing them to leave the van behind. In the end, Ray and his children managed to get onto a ferry that was crossing the Hudson River. But even as they sailed, tripods attacked the fleeing refugees. On the ferry, the passengers could only watch in horror as the U.S. military tried to fight back against the alien machines. In the midst of the battle, Robbie, filled with anger and a desire for revenge, jumped into the fight against the tripods. Ray and Rachel, scared for their lives, fled away from the chaos. The military forces fighting the tripods were soon wiped out, and Robbie was presumed dead along with many soldiers. Not long after, Ray and Rachel found shelter in a nearby house offered to them by a strange, troubled man, a former ambulance driver named Harlan Ogilvy. Harlan was clearly unstable, but in those desperate times, even odd kindness could be a blessing. For several hours, Ray, Rachel, and Harlan stayed hidden in the house. In the basement, they heard eerie sounds as one of the tripod's long, spindly probes explored the space, and a small group of aliens wandered around. Soon, they discovered that the aliens had begun to grow a strange, red plant all over the land, a vegetation that spread quickly and changed the landscape. Later, Harlan, already unhinged by the horrors he had seen, lost his mind completely when he witnessed the tripods harvesting human blood and tissue. Fearing that Harlan's wild shouts would attract the aliens, Ray was forced, with a heavy heart, to kill him. That night, while everyone tried to sleep, a second tripod probe crept into the house and caught the Ferriers asleep. Startled awake, Rachel ran outside, only to be abducted by the tripod. Seeing his daughter taken away, Ray chased after the machine. In his desperate search, he found an old Humvee left in the overgrown streets. Inside it, he discovered a belt full of grenades. With courage in his heart, Ray grabbed the grenades and purposely allowed himself to be captured along with his daughter, hoping he could save her from the inside. Inside the tripod, with the help of other unfortunate abductees, Ray managed to set off the grenades. The explosion rocked the machine from within, destroying it and freeing those trapped inside. After these terrifying events, Ray and Rachel eventually made it to Boston. There, they saw something surprising. The red alien vegetation was starting to wither, and the mighty tripods were mysteriously collapsing. In one final moment of danger, an active tripod appeared. But then Ray noticed something unusual. Birds were landing on it. This small sign meant that the tripod's force shields were no longer working. Quickly, Ray shouted to the soldiers escorting the fleeing people. The soldiers then aimed their javelin missiles at the tripod and shot it down. As the soldiers moved in, a hatch opened and a pale, sickly alien tried to climb out, but it could not survive and soon died. At last, Ray and Rachel reached Mary Ann's parents' house in Boston, where they were finally reunited with Mary and, much to their amazement, Robbie, who had somehow survived the earlier attack. In the quiet end of the story, the narrator explained that the aliens had ultimately perished because they were not strong enough to withstand the countless tiny microbes that live on Earth. These microbes had been with humanity for thousands of years, and they turned out to be the aliens' greatest weakness. And so, our tale comes to an end, a story of a father's brave journey to save his children, of terrifying machines and mysterious aliens, and of the surprising ways in which even the smallest things, like tiny microbes, can save the world. Remember, my dear, that even in the darkest times, hope can shine through and courage can lead us to safety.